Yes, he did. He did join.
Brother. Every time.
Every time. Every time.
That's
It's
what I do.
phenomenal anyway.
Welcome to Hashtag Sports, everybody. Ha! Beat you to it. Welcome to Hashtag Sports, everybody. Mario in his funny hat has returned. Welcome, funny hat Mario.
Yes, the victory hats have returned. The weather got a little cold. I got the oven on. It's going to be pretty cold in here today. But
that's not how you heat your house, is it?
We're not going to talk about it. Okay, anyway, guys, welcome to the Hashtag Sports presentation of the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins post game, sponsored by Mr. Rogers Homes. You can find all of our socials, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook on our link tree. All episodes will be on iTunes and Spotify upon completion. I'm here with my trusty colleague, Paul. I said they weren't playing a 2-6 team or 2-5 team. I said that last week, guys. Everyone's like, oh, we're going to roll over the Dolphins. No, you're not. And right out of the gate, I know people want to talk about the penalties and maybe this and that and the third, Tyler Bass and all that other stuff. Tua looked phenomenal today.
Yeah, Tua big difference on this team, right? So yes. I know everybody's going to dump on Tua, but compared to, Skylar Thompson or, whoever else they're rolling out at quarterback, there's a big difference between Tua and everybody else in that roster. So you can't call Tua a system guy when there's quarterbacks of similar skill sets who just struggle. Right. So it's
absolutely
like, and while Tua may not be your guy for the Dolphins, you understand now that he is their guy and that's who they're committed to. That is a better football team with him on the field. That's just a fact. Whether you like it or not, that's the way that it is in Miami. And while there are, I'm sure, many people who are looking to move past Tua, because when you need him to throw a Hail Mary, unless you're standing on your own 35 and happening.
Yeah, you know what? This, if anything else, Buffalo Bills fans have experienced this quite a bit. This is the reason why wins are not a quarterback stat. The guy was 25 for 28, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. Only was sacked once. Didn't put the ball in harm's way. Was efficient. Got the ball out of his hands. Did everything he needed to do from the quarterback position. Just didn't win. I mean, and you want to talk about it coming into this game. It's how good he was playing today. The Buffalo Bills from week 1 to week 8 surrendered 3 second half touchdowns total. Dolphins had 2 today.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
If you're we'll give him his flowers. I mean, he played phenomenal today. The Bills just made one more play better than the Dolphins today. But I knew that this was not the 2-5 team that was coming into today. Wasn't what the Bills are going to be facing. This was the Dolphins Super Bowl. You said it last week, Paul.
Yeah. Their season really weighed on today, right? Because now they become 1-4 in away games this season. 2 and come on, 1-3. They're 1-3 now. Buffalo is undefeated at home this year. But let's just address the elephant in the room. Buffalo got some help in that final drive of theirs, right?
They did.
Like the Poyer, unnecessary roughness. Truth be told, probably should have been pass interference, but that hadn't been called. That wasn't getting called.
No.
They were letting those guys play pretty aggressive most of the day. So that it probably could have been pass interference. It was not going to get called. Poyer gives a parting gift to the Bills by a unnecessary roughness penalty that kind of resets the clock there because Buffalo was in it in a bad way. They were
3rd and 14.
Yeah, 3rd and 14. They do a hard count. They get a young kid to jump to make it 3rd and 9. Poyer resets the clock there for you because this game is, I think, you're going to overtime at that point. But I mean, you're also going to overtime with, 54 seconds left on the clock? I mean, we've seen Buffalo, struggle in those final minutes of games. And Miami, I think, still had 2 timeouts at the time. So, giving the ball back to Miami there would have been hard for Buffalo, like really hard for Buffalo.
Yeah, and going into that final drive, when Miami had the ball, I'm sitting there going, okay, they're down 27-20. I said, listen, do they go for 2 here? Is this a situation where Miami's like, listen, they really have nothing to lose at this juncture. They have to go for broke. You're playing a team that, like you said, undefeated at home in the Buffalo Bills. Do you want, and then if you go for two, if you go for two there and you get it, you're putting the pressure on Bass even more. I mean, honestly, that last kick that Bass hit, the 61-yarder, you're sitting there thinking, the dude's got nothing to lose. I mean, you already missed that extra point. You doinked one off the upright. If the game is tied, if you miss it, it doesn't matter. There's 5 seconds left.
Right.
Like, what do you care if you miss it? So, so yeah, I just thought it was very, very interesting. I'm glad Bass was able to hit that kick. Maybe this will kind of parlay into a few more confidence for the kid. But
so let's talk about that. So first off, Tyler Bass hits a franchise record 61-yard game-winning field goal. It's 9 for 9 in his career in the last minute of the fourth quarter and overtime. So those last-minute kicks are, I mean, Bass has never missed a last-minute kick in the fourth quarter or overtime, according to Buffalo Bills PR on Twitter. So, I mean, it's the Bills official PR. So I'm willing to believe that. And that is also his 5th career game-winning field goal in the final minute of a game. So, like, when it comes down to it, Bass is pretty clutch if you look at his career. And I understand this year and the end of last season have felt pretty scary, especially when, you get Shanks on the extra point and then he doinks another one that happens to go in. Like, there's some scary stuff there. But last minute field goals, he's 9 for 9 in his career.
Yeah, that's I did not know that stat. That's an amazing stat for Bass. Interestingly enough, people like to say that we have problems with McDermott and his coaching and a lot of things. And you know what? A lot of that stuff I agree with. I'm not gonna. It's hard to defend some of the things that he does, especially that challenge. I didn't like that challenge. I mean, unless your defense was worn out at that point. But I mean, time of possession really wasn't slanted in Miami's favor, and it's not like you're playing in 95-degree heat or whatever. But that being said, McDaniel can't control himself. You had 2 starting running backs that had 22 carries for about a 5.5 yard per carry average.
Yeah.
Keep running it. What's wrong? He can't help himself.
Right.
And I know when your quarterback's hot, but keep running the ball. You were gutting the Bills on that. You know what I mean?
Well, and let's talk about the Bills' first half drives, right? You went 3 and out, 3 plays, 3 yards, field goal on 7 plays for 15 yards, an interception at the goal line, which was unfortunate, right? Like that happens. Another field goal, right? That was your first half. Your second half, we talk about the second half Bills, they go touchdown, 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 field goal. How can you stop that, right? Like, you give one possession away and now you're playing from behind. And that's what happened to Miami today.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you look at the box score for the team's statistics. I mean, I have it in the ticker on the bottom. Both these teams combined for 50 first downs today, nearly almost identical time of possession and yardage. Miami, 4 for 8 on third down. Bills 5 for 10. They're both 50%. About an evenly as matched game as you could play. Both teams had 1 turnover. Both very at crucial times. You're down in the red zone and your first drive coming out at the second half. But I mean, I mentioned it last week. I'm gonna hammer the table with this one. Like, seriously, this was not a 2-5 team coming in here. I expect Miami to roll whoever they play next week. I don't know who they play, but I just expect them to roll them.
Can we give a big Sean McDermott clap up to Kaiir Elam today for taking Jalen Waddle out of the game for all but the fourth quarter?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. When I saw him in, I got a little bit nervous, especially when Taryn went out for a little bit and you had Cam Lewis and Kaiir Elam on the same side. It gives you some reservation as a Bills fan. Yeah. And it's something where they've struggled at certain times. And, I think they gave up a touchdown on that drive where Johnson had to come out. He is really the straw that stirs the drink on that defense. You know, it's weird. I mean, you can make an argument that it's Bernard or it's the corners, but it is really interesting what you see. You know, how about that early 3rd and 3 and Vaughn jumping off sides?
Hey, his first game back, man. First game
It's not
back.
his first game ever. Jesus Christ.
Well, Jalen Waddle walks away with one of the strangest stat lines you're going to see in football this year. Are you ready for this, Mar?
I'm listening.
2 receptions, a long of 12 on 2 targets. Okay. So 2 receptions on 2 targets, a long of 12, and a touchdown for -4 yards. Now, the reason that is because Devon Achane caught that pass the last play of the game, tossed it to Jalen Waddle, and he ran backwards for about 28 yards, or ran backwards for 20 yards, and then got tackled. So Jalen Waddle unfortunately put up -4 receiving yards today, a -2 receiving yard average with a touchdown on a long of 12. That's sports.
That's how the cookie crumbles, apparently. Tell me Groot didn't look like, a parent trying to catch his kid and put him in bed for the end of the night. Chasing after Waddle running backwards.
I will say that Miami has been a team that has consistently given the Bills a lot of trouble on the ground. And Buffalo does a lot of things defensively really well. So it's hard sometimes for us as fans to watch them give up 150 yards on the ground, right? Like that's really hard to do. And it's hard to watch them give up 230 plus yards in the air along with 150 yards on the ground because it feels like you can't do anything right defensively, But the difference is that Buffalo does a really good job of flushing out things at the edges, right? If they have a team that wants to get to the edge, Buffalo's fast enough to be able to shut that down. The problem remains to be within the tackles. Miami certainly took advantage of that today. I was hoping that getting Bernard back would fix some of that, but not yet, right? We're just kind of in a not yet scenario. Is this something that we expect Buffalo to improve on? Because again, you're looking at the Colts and Jonathan Taylor's going to come at you inside the tackles, right? That's going to be how they attack you. You look at the Bills' schedule coming up, you're like, okay, are there any interior runners that we're really nervous about here? Well, Kareem Hunt can only go inside the tackles at this point in the career. You got Jonathan Taylor now, Kareem Hunt the week after that. Then you get the 49ers who will do whatever they want to you with running the football.
Yep.
So, if you're Buffalo, is this a problem that you can resolve in a week or two? Or is this just something that's kind of inherent in the roster building?
Maybe the cycling out of the defensive line hasn't been to the degree that Sean McDermott likes. So those guys really aren't keeping a lot of the bodies off of the second level. That could be something that's going on internally, a change that they're trying to adjust to. But it seems like all of that gets thrown out the window when the Bills come out in the second half, and they seem to be shutting certain teams down. Obviously, they didn't shut down the Dolphins today, but as I mentioned before, McDaniel can't help himself. He has to call pass plays. He wants to score quick. He wants to do certain things like that. And I noticed that near beginning of the fourth quarter. I was like, listen, Miami really doesn't have an offense that could grind a clock. But as they were running it today could have been that day they could have done that. And if you grind the clock, you wear the defense down, you're able to control the flow of the game. Now, most of the second halves that we've seen Buffalo play this year, they've been able to control the pace of the second half. So when you look at the Colts, you're probably going to be facing a savvy veteran in Flacco who's just going to, he doesn't mind taking checkdowns at this point. He doesn't want to get hit. And Taylor will run in the tackle, so that is a concern. Can you keep the guards off of the second level? That's going to be the biggest thing. The Chiefs could do that, like you said. The 49ers, literally, that's what they do is run with a Shanahan offense. Can they control the clock enough to not panic enough if the Bills happen to have a quick score? Now, I firmly believe that Ray Davis touchdown just struck fear into McDaniel. He's like, oh, God. Seriously, that's what we're dealing with here. But as far as the passing defense goes and how you mix up the pass with the run against the Buffalo Bills defense, today was a blueprint for the NFL. I believe today was a blueprint. Get the ball out of your quarterback's hands fast, dump it down, get him running after the catch. If you have players that could do that, they could present a really huge problem for Buffalo.
Yeah, I think the fascinating thing is we've seen Buffalo use these wide receiver screens over the course of the last few weeks, aggressively, right? So that's one when they're looking at blitz, right? That's what they're checking to. They're checking to plays like that
Hmm.
when they're seeing pressure packages coming in, right? And those are great blitz beaters.
Oh
They're
yeah,
great blitz beaters because it's a numbers game, right? Now you're winning the numbers game on the backside at that point. So they're great blitz beaters. The one thing I think is most fascinating about that we're not really talking about is you do this for a few weeks, and now you're going to open up the back end of your offense. And what I mean by that is now you know, the 38-yard goes, like those routes open up for you because your defense is going to have to the defense is going to have to start shifting down to deal with the fact that you're doing a lot of stuff underneath. Josh isn't pushing the ball downfield. I mean, he has, right?
yeah,
But not the way that we saw him do it last year, where he's forcing it most of the time. He's taking shots now throughout the course of the game. They are far more conservative than they have been in the past with that. And part of me thinks that one, it's design, and two, it is just a matter of time before you start seeing Josh push the ball downfield again. Maybe that's just the hope in me, but
yeah,
Ray Davis, 4 carries for 20 yards, 5 yards a clip, obviously easy math, and
yeah.
then two receptions in the passing game with a 63-yard touchdown. Ray Davis only 6 touches today, and it feels to me like he's still winning the running back position here in
Oh,
Buffalo.
you
Like I
want
can't
this so
help
bad.
I just, I watched James Cook today, couldn't catch a cold, right? I understand he walked away with 5 receptions on 6 targets, but there was one that was bad. And,
Yeah,
and that happens to Cook pretty consistently.
yeah.
So, and don't get me wrong, he averaged 4.4 yards a carry. Like he's doing his job. But for this offense, it just still feels like Ray Davis is a better fit for this offense. And I can't get past that.
Does having Cook as your number one hurt you or help you? I mean, you got two guys
Does it
who have.
matter?
No, I'm just saying. Like at this point, you got two guys. How many teams would love to have that problem? You know what I mean? I think the Jets with Braylon Allen, he's not there yet, but he's a nice compliment to Hall. He's not the same skill set. You could easily exchange Cook and Davis's skill sets with each other.
Mm-hmm.
They both can catch the ball. Although, there is more concern with Cook catching it than Davis at this point. Davis seems like he can get those tougher yards inside, and the pile will move a little bit more when he's in there, which is, when you start getting to these dogfight games, that's kind of what you want back there. You know what I mean? I think they'll judiciously use both of those guys in that role where, we always like to say it's going to come back around. You know what I mean? Like with the running back position, we always think it will. And I don't think it is. I think the new NFL is you get 2 guys on their rookie deals, and then you get 2 more guys on their rookie deals because you want to spend more money someplace else. I mean, Derrick Henry and what Baltimore's doing right now is an anomaly. Like this doesn't happen in the new NFL. Yeah. Another 2 touchdowns and 100 yards for him today, by the way, if you guys are keeping the MVP voting up. So point being is, you really, and then it says, and Danny Monica comes in, says, unleash Gore Jr. You still got him in the fold. So I love Davis and what he brings to the offense. I think I don't know what you're trying to ask or what you're trying to say. Is that, have you seen enough of Cook, or do you really want Davis to be your number one running back at this point?
Well, I agree that I think a lot of Bills fans at the beginning of this season saw players with similar skill sets, right? You see, have an older player in Ray Davis, so he's not as fast as James Cook, and that was kind of the thing that everybody talked about. Well, he's not as fast as James Cook, and that's fine. But as far as dependable yardage goes, it feels like Ray Davis is slowly creeping in on, making Ty Johnson and kind of sneaking him out of the rotation here, right?
Yep.
And I don't think Ty Johnson's done a bad job, but at some point they're going to trust the player with the longer term deal. It's a rookie deal. They're not paying him anything. At some point, they're going to trust him with that role. Another piece that I think is so fascinating about this is what has this done? The Bills, only running the ball 19 times today. Josh, only 2 of those for 7 yards. We thought last week we're going to start seeing Josh open up a little bit in the run game, and then we have another game like today where Josh throws 39 passes. not really committing to helping in the run game. Was it just really not there for him, in your opinion, today?
It's weird because you look at it from a schematic standpoint. Who's a really big support for the Miami Dolphins in the run? I mean, obviously you got Poyer there, who's been known to help in the run, but you got Holland. You know what I mean? And you had Cooper out. So I think if the Buffalo Bills went into this game and they only threw the ball 20 times with Cooper out, a lot of teams would have been like, see, they can't throw it. They threw it 35 times when they had Cooper. They threw it 20 when they didn't have him. He's the guy we got to focus on the most. And maybe, I don't know if it was so much Brady with the flow of the game and what he wanted to accomplish, or it was just what was opened up for the Buffalo Bills, in that respect. Maybe they just felt more comfortable with Allen dropping back and saying, okay, you've played this team 15 times. You know what to do. Honestly, a lot of that stuff he alerted to. He could have been checking out of those run plays. It could have been one of those things where he was literally saying, I see something in this matchup. They tip their hand. I know what Poyer does when he does this, when he does that. I know what coverage it is. We can hit a bigger gain here rather than like a 3 or 4 yard run. We can hit like a 5 yard, 6 yard, 7 yard gain through the air and give ourselves, a shorter 2nd and 3 instead of 2nd and 6. So it might have been one of those scenarios where Allen was given more control against teams that he's more comfortable with and that he knows. And everyone wants to talk about Poyer knows all the tells for Allen. Well, Allen knows all Poyer's tells. So it could have been something like that where he just like, listen, I'm going to put the game in your hands. You've played them so many times. Let's go. So,
well, and again, Buffalo had no trouble keeping hold of the football today. On most of their drives were longer than 8 plays, took longer than 4 or around 4 minutes at minimum. So Buffalo, for going against a team like Miami, who really against Buffalo could have controlled the clock, Buffalo said, no, we can play this game too. We're gonna control the clock, because I think Buffalo was willing to try and take Miami into deep water and say, the only way you're going to move the ball is by running it. And at some point, we're going to take that away from you. The clock will take that away from you. And Buffalo was able to wait them out. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are going to be upset with those. I'm going to call them how I heard people talk about them. The 2 phantom holds at the end of the first half. That's what people are referring to them as.
Those are huge.
Understandable, because I think the game feels very different as Bills fans if they count that touchdown, right? Because instead what ends up happening is you kick a field goal there instead of scoring the touchdown. So, you're not down 10-6 at that point. Like, the score is even up, right?
Yeah.
So I think it feels a little different there for Bills fans if the score is even going into halftime. I don't know if it would have made much of a difference in the game as a whole, right?
Yeah.
But these are, we see the NFL continues to impact plays with officiating. It impacted the end of the game positively for Buffalo. So is the league ever going to respond to this? Because I saw a comment earlier, and I want to go back and I want to highlight it real quick, because there was a great comment earlier. We can definitely get to G-Rock on that.
Yeah, while you look for that, G-Rock says, who will get extended, Rousseau or Shakir? Oh, man. You want them both, right? You definitely want them both. Buffalo Bills have been known to let go of wide receivers that perform. I think that Shakir, if you wanted to compare him to Davis, who do you think should get a bigger deal? Probably at this point, I think a lot more teams would like Shakir. Shakir fits into more teams than Davis does. When you have a 95% catch percentage, you tend to attract a few more teams than that. But Rousseau, and we've seen so many times. I mean, he's on a contract here. He's playing out of his mind, and normally you can't keep those guys unless you're gonna choose. You're gonna make a decision. The Buffalo Bills paying 3 defensive linemen that much money, you're going to have to sacrifice in certain spots.
Right.
I don't know where
and let's make sure that we're clear on this, right? So both players are not So Khalil Shakir still has another year left on his deal. Okay, so
Yes.
you're not in a race here.
No.
Although I'm sure you'd want to sign him sooner rather than later if you're going to do an extension. You can extend him now at any time, right?
Yes.
So, well, actually, that's not true. You'll be able to extend him in January. Let me explain real quick. So the way the NFL works is on rookie deals, you can extend a player after January of his third year. And I think that rule kind of gets forgotten about as fans. You look at it and say, well, we want to extend him as early as you can. Well, the collective bargaining agreement says you can't extend him until halfway through their third year. Which they actually, the way that they phrase it is kind of in January 1st of their third year. So you're not going to be able to extend Shakir until January. If you are going to want to do something there. So you do still have another year after this. So you do have Shakir for another year. Rousseau has a 5th-year option coming up, and that's $13.3 million. Now, those are now fully guaranteed. That's not the way that used to be. So Rousseau is going to be getting paid in next year. And with Rousseau, different circumstance, right? You can extend him now at this point. You can extend him now at any time. To try and get either past that 13.3 million. The question is he playing to a level where you want to give him that money? Remember, one of the reasons that the Bills draft those positions is they can't afford to sign him in free agency. So do you think that means they're going to re-sign a player like that? I'm assuming probably not. They drafted Boogie Basham and Rousseau at the same time. They trade Boogie Basham. You still have Vaughn here. So I think the fate of Vaughn and Rousseau are kind of directly tied to each other. Does Rousseau offer you more long-term value? Well, of course, he's 24 years old. Yeah, of course he offers you more long-term value. The question is, has he shown you enough without Von Miller that he is going to be worth the money without Von Miller? I think that's probably a better question. But with Shakir, different circumstance, you're not going to be able to extend him until January. I like the little highlighted me. That was fancy.
Isn't he beautiful? Nation,
oh,
isn't he great?
Thanks, guys. This is what I want to talk about. Ryan had mentioned, but the NFL is hard these days. It's hard to watch these days. The games are getting hard to watch. There's just so much that happens. But I think the difference is more that teams are really totally fine with just saying, listen, hold the guy on every play. The second touchdown by Achane. Tehran was getting held aggressively by Jonnu Smith, but it wasn't going to get called, So and I think that's the stuff that shows up in the first half of games and kind of disappears in the second half of games. And it just feels like that's the way the Bills season has gone with the referees this year. The first half of the games are really kind of ticky-tack, and then the second half of games open right up, except for the things that are egregious.
Yeah, It's hard too because you try to it destroys the flow for the offense that's on the field as well if it's getting called on them all the time. Right. You want to get no rhythm, you want to get going as far as your offense goes, as far as the script goes and certain things like that. It's so tough for that to happen once all these flags are flying out. Plus, it's not consistent. You talked about the Tehran hold, which was blatantly obvious. You talked about the targeting hit on Rapp, which literally was Mozart that did it, was the one that dropped his head. You know what I mean? It was like, what are we doing here? What did we, and then I've never been one to be like, all right, the fix is in. These guys are paid. I'm not doing that. I know a lot of people do that. A lot of people cry wolf on Twitter and stuff like that. You know what? The guys are just incompetent. Literally, they're just incompetent. Everyone was talking about when we had the replacement refs. Oh my God, I can't wait till we get the regular refs back and all this stuff. Did it go away? No, unless you have referees that are fully trained all the time. These are their full-time jobs. These are the only jobs that they have. Because these guys, seriously, they always like to talk about them. They got these other jobs. They're lawyers or this and that. You know what I mean? Oh, they make a bad call on a Sunday. They don't care. They go back to work on Monday. And they got, they have all that other stuff. They don't care. They really don't. So unless you make it their livelihood where that's their job and that's their profession, you're going to keep having all these other things. And the infrastructure in the NFL has to change itself where you can make certain things replayable. Oh, we don't want to have so many replays. It extends the game. nobody cares that's at the stadium or watching. It's one of the biggest, like from the movie Concussion. You want to go to war with somebody who owns a day of the week. Nobody's going to care if the game's an extra 27 minutes long or half hour long or whatever. If you get the call right, no one's going to care. So get it right, and then let's move on. So that's the thing that I can't. Oh, good stats, Paul. Love it. Vaughn cost $18 million to cut next year. Cap number's almost 24, and you can't really keep kicking that can down the road, or you pay him in bonus and all other stuff. You want to prorate it. You want to add voided years. You just end up just prolonging the inevitable. If he retires, though, Paul, if the Buffalo Bills, hear me out, if the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl this year, he will have done something that no other player in the NFL, I believe no other player in the NFL has ever done, and won a Super Bowl with 3 separate teams. I don't know, because I think that was the allure that brought him to Buffalo, where he was going to be a major contributor to a team that won a Super Bowl 3 separate times. So I don't know. You guys could fact check me on that all you want. If there's other players, please put them in the chat. But if he retires, that puts a whole different paint job on the Rousseau extension, because then you would be able to extend him. And how much would he be owed at that point, or would he have to? He wouldn't have to give anything back, would he? If he retires?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the whole Eric Wood thing, like what they did with Eric Wood.
Yep. Okay. So Matt Millen, the linebacker, won 2 with Oakland, 1 with San Francisco, 1 with Washington. He's the only player in NFL history to have won with 3, I believe.
Okay. All right. I got you.
Yeah. I think that's right.
That is true. Yeah, he did. I remember that.
That's right. And I don't want to, of course, Charles Haley's the first one that comes to mind, but he won 5 Super Bowls with 2 different teams.
Yeah, he definitely had 5 with 2. He was a major player in that. Yeah. And kept out of.
I love keeping him out of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, good job, NFL. Yeah.
Coincidentally enough, that topic's the first one Paul and I ever discussed back in 2012, guys. Just so going back in the Wayback Machine.
Is it?
On the Thomas Loop, that was the first sports topic we talked about, was Haley not being in the Hall yet.
Well, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's how it goes.
All right. Yeah, full circle. Full circle.
Thanks, guys. Welcome to Nostalgia Lane. I'll be your coordinator for tonight. But
so how washed did Odell Beckham look?
Oh God. And he wasn't involved. He really wasn't involved. I mean, he was, and that was a guy that the Bills wanted here, along with DeAndre Hopkins. You know what I mean? And then you wonder why the Bills pass on these guys at the time. Now you have a rookie wideout. Hope Keon Coleman's all right, by the way. That shot he took from Poyer was nasty. Yeah. I saw Poyer leave his feet. I thought he was gone. I thought they were going to eject him. He left his feet. I was like, come on, dude. You can't. Yeah. He knows he can't do that. He knows it. But the Buffalo Bills will be traveling next week to play the Indianapolis Colts, which Paul had mentioned before. They have a solid running game with Taylor inside the tackles there. They're going to be very, very formidable. You have a veteran quarterback who is fine with taking checkdowns and handing the ball off repeatedly, depending on how the offensive coordinator decides to call it. And then you have the reigning defending champs. Paul, I always felt that was weird to call them the defending. They're not defending anything. They have to go through the season like everybody else. It's not like they're waiting there at the end for everybody.
I don't know. If the Bills win a Super Bowl, I'm happy to call them the defending Super Bowl champs until the day that's not true. So I don't want to sound bitter there, Mario, but the fact of the matter is you call them defending. They've earned.
Well, let me ask you this, Paul. Let me ask you this, because we all know the Chiefs are the team you have to beat. And the Bills have beat them in the regular season before. Let me turn your question back on you that you asked me earlier tonight. The Bills have been primarily a 50-50 offense, run versus pass. And we've seen that. I think they announced it during the broadcast that the Bills run 49% of the time. And Allen really hasn't been heavily involved in that. Do you think the last 2 games were to kind of throw a curveball at Kansas City to say, hey, we don't mind throwing Josh 35, 39 times. We don't mind doing that. To give them something else on tape to look at, or do you think that's just how the game played out?
I think this is just what's happening right now. I'm, I would love to tell you that they're posturing, for the Chiefs, and uh, the story, the short story writer in you tells you that that's what they're doing. But this isn't the movie Rudy, so like we're not doing this.
He was
So no, they're just
offsides.
trying to win football games.
Rudy was offsides, guys. I hate to break it to you, but he was offsides.
Mario, come on. Don't take that away from Sean Astin.
Hey, the guy's got Lord of the Rings. He's fine, okay?
Yeah, it's I just think they're trying to win football games. And again, this Miami team is a different team than the one that's been playing for the last 4 weeks.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
just not the same animal. As far as the Colts and the Chiefs offer two very different things. But the Chiefs are undefeated as it stands right now. So what do you do about that? And they haven't been winning games in remarkable fashion, but they're still winning football games. The same way that there's some games where Buffalo is winning these games, and it is far from remarkable fashion.
No, it's not. I mean, you're catching teams at certain points in the season that it's very, very, let me go back to their schedule. You know what I mean? Like the Chiefs got very fortunate the way that their schedule played out. I mean, you get Baltimore week 1, and you're really one play from that game going into overtime.
Yeah.
You get Atlanta early. You know what I mean? You win that game by 5. You get
that's exactly it. In the last 5 games, their biggest victory they've had has been 13 points over New Orleans. Besides that, Atlanta by 5, the Chargers by 7, New Orleans by 13, San Francisco by 10, and the Raiders by 7. Like you're not pulling anybody out. Like the Bills beat Seattle 31-10. They beat Tennessee 34-10. They squeaked one out against the Jets. So again, the margin of victory is something to say there, because I don't think the Raiders are all that good. San Francisco is a shell of itself right now.
Mean, look at what you're. I mean, and I'll bang this drum until everyone wants to hear it. It's the defense that's stirring the drink over there in Kansas City, guys. You got to realize that. I mean, Gardner Minshew. You're playing Gardner Minshew. He's a character. He's a fun guy to talk about, but he's not a legitimate threat. And you lose to him by 7. You talk about San Francisco. Brock Purdy throws 3 picks, which I think is like the second or third time in his career he did that. You knock Derek Carr out of the game when it was 16-13. The Chargers go up 10-0 in the first quarter. You beat them 17-10. You don't think the defense had anything to do with that? You know what I mean? It's so interesting to see. And then you get a non-pass interference call against Atlanta that probably should have been called, and you beat them by 5. That's first down at the 1. And you got Bijan back there. Who's stopping him?
Yeah. Right.
So it's like you said, for the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs have been very, very fortunate for some of the bounces that they were able to get. And obviously the Buffalo Bills, is there a way that we can stop coming out slow? Should Joe Brady just throw the script out? Because the script is not working.
They gotta do some calibration in that prep room. But Mar, I think we're complaining about a team that is so wildly in first place of the AFC East, right? Like, there's not another team in the AFC East that is and have a 500 record. So like Buffalo's just got to make it through the regular season at this point.
But that's just the thing, Paul. That's the thing. The goalposts have moved for this team since 17 got here. To break the drought was amazing. Tyrod breaking the drought. The Buffalo Bills are in the playoffs. It was great. You go down to Jacksonville, you lose. Okay. We got that, guys. And then you end up winning the division. That was the goal. Can you win the division? Now, that's old news. I know how tough it is to do in the NFL. It's crazy tough to do that in the NFL. And the Bills have done it 4 years in a row now.
Right.
Now the goalposts have moved again. Can you get past the divisional round? Okay. They got to a couple championship games. Now it's the goal is now you got a window on Josh Allen where, and I'm gonna phrase this a little differently than everybody else's window. The window on the Bills is closed. Was the window ever closed on Brady? No. Okay. No one ever mentioned his age or the window closing or any of this other nonsense that they had.
Mhm.
The window on the most top tier production you're going to get out of Josh Allen is closing.
Mhm.
Okay. Josh
That I
Allen,
agree with.
Josh
that is a
Allen
good
at 20, at 28, where he is right now, is not going to be Josh Allen at 32. He's not going to run the
Mhm.
same. He's still going to have that cannon, but the years of him running around the way he's running around are going to take a toll on him eventually. So you're not going to have this top tier guy. You're going to have a guy that can win you games. You know what I mean? Just by himself can influence the flow of 12 games by himself.
Mhm.
However, that's going to diminish over the years. I mean, look
Right.
how much help Brady got throughout the years when he was starting to get up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I will say that as far as the window goes, and the Buffalo Bills Mafia and hashtag Nation, they want a championship at this point. They want to be able to celebrate the greatness that's going on the field. And Bills fans, among everyone else, people will say how obnoxious they are and this and that. Why do you jump through tables and stuff? Well, you go through 17 years of purgatory with no quarterback, and you're gifted this, as Ryan says, centaur.
Yeah.
You're going to enjoy it for what it's worth.
The Quentin Morris touchdown, I think, is a great example of the play that you're going to get from a 28-year-old quarterback that you're not going to be able to depend on in three seasons, right?
Yeah.
Like that play doesn't happen in a couple of years. It was phenomenal play. Great job, Quentin Morris. Personally, I would rather see Quentin Morris on the field than Dawson Knox. I'm saying that for a few weeks at this point, but to kind of roll back a little bit to Josh today, still going through some growing pains with Dalton Kincaid because Dalton Kincaid targeted 10 times, 4 receptions, and there were a lot of times where Josh underthrew him.
He did.
It seemed exclusively underthrew Dalton Kincaid. I don't know. It felt personal at some point. He was exclusively underthrowing Dalton Kincaid. Is that a route depth thing, right? Is that he's just not running those routes correctly because he was underthrown consistently, which makes me feel either they're not on the same page or those routes just weren't run exactly the way that they needed to be.
Well, I mean, I'll chalk it up to a couple things. Number one, the familiarity that Miami has with Buffalo. I mean, they played, as we stated, this was their Super Bowl. Either they were going to win this game and then be 3-5 and have a chance to make a run and win a few games here and there to try to get into the playoffs, or not. And so they were throwing everything at the wall at Josh Allen. Number two is you had two full games with your freshly traded wide receiver, Amari Cooper, which his presence alone opened up a lot of guys in Seattle for Josh Allen and opened up a lot of guys, so that being said, you didn't have that. They didn't have to adjust for Amari Cooper at all. So what they were doing was they were just playing hard at the line, and a lot of those throws that went in the dirt, Allen double clutched it. And we have said many times when he was younger, his base got so wide when he first used to throw the ball. And we used to try to remark at that. He got so much better as the years progressed, but as he still double clutches, those habits are really tough to break. So if you double clutch, if you're a quarterback, you're stepping back and you go to step and throw a ball and then you double clutch it, you feel like you have to step again. Right. But his base is already wide at that point. So you're not going to get everything that you need on that ball, and it's going to go in the dirt, or he didn't want to put it in harm's way or something. You know what I mean? So a lot of those passes that he was throwing to Kincaid, they were just he was double clutching it and really wasn't sure of it, and he didn't want to put it in harm's way. So that's what I see. I don't know. Like I love how you try to make something be like, that was insanely low when he threw that one to him.
I wanted you to white knight for him a little bit, I wanted you to white knight for Allen a little bit today.
I did a little bit. Yeah, it's just, I think what a lot of people do and have taken for granted as far as Bills Mafia and hashtag Nation is you've literally made the Dolphins your little brother for years, and that comes with work. You got to work hard for that to happen. And just as well as the Dolphins and you've dominated the Dolphins, they know you. A lot of times that that guy you beat up every day doesn't like that happening, and will come back hard, stronger and harder at you. So I think that they put everything against the wall and they threw everything that they could at Buffalo today. missing some key starters, and they just fell short. 3 points. I mean, that game could have literally went either way. Who are you? I can hear when you type. You type very angry. You're typing.
I got heavy fingers when I type. Is that what you're saying? I got heavy fingers.
When you try to get a point across, you're mad.
Yeah, no. It's just talking about the wide receiver room, right? So I'll just bring up the comment that I was responding to.
Okay, sounds good.
So JC Zoe, I guess is how we're gonna pronounce that, or J Zoe, J Zoe. We'll go with that. We're gonna assume the C is silent. J Zoe, you need a field stretching wide receiver. Allen is not a dink and dunk quarterback. The response there is that at this point in the season, teams hold on to those types of players unless they're in contract years and the team is bottoming out, right? So those guys are hard to find. They're very hard to find, at least dependable ones. And while I am inclined to agree, right, I think the Cooper not being there today kind of resets the clock back to where you were at the beginning of the season. When you have Cooper, it allows Keon to go down the field. And that's really what they got him for, right? They got Keon to go down the field.
Yeah.
They didn't get him to run, these under routes. Like that's not what they got him for. They want Keon to be that guy. So you need Cooper to allow Keon to be that guy. Right. So I just disagree that they need somebody like that. I think Cooper changes Keon's role. And while Keon may not be the field stretcher that everybody needs him to be, the fact of the matter is he can manhandle a guy down the field. And that's how Buffalo is going to do that this year, right? That's how they're going to stretch the field is they're going to take a bigger guy and have him run down the field and just try and moss everybody. Like that's how Buffalo is going to approach this. We've tried the small, speedy wide receiver thing. And, and we've seen the last couple of years that those throws are really hard for Josh to hit. Those smaller targets down the field, it's just hard for him to hit. So having Amari changes that role for Keon, and I think that's the role that Keon ultimately plays is that field stretcher. Although not a typical role you would expect from a player of his profile, that's kind of the role that he feels like he's going to fit with Buffalo. I mean, Mar, am I crazy there? Am I off base?
No, and I think one of the things that you got to almost it's like 6-1, half dozen the other. I think what happened a lot last year with Allen trying to push the ball down the field, you had Trent Sherfield dropping it, you had Diggs dropping it, or you had it turned over. You know what I mean? Like Allen had 18 picks last year of trying to throw the ball down the field and trying to stretch the field instead of this dink and dunk stuff. I know it's like you get a Porsche and you only drive 20 miles an hour. That's the feel I'm getting of it because you got Allen. I definitely could throw it at any part of the field that you need him to. But you're definitely right in the fact that having Amari Cooper on the team definitely stretches things out for you and allows other players and their skill set to be showcased for everybody. I mean, if you don't have Cooper on the field, you don't have Shakir catching 9 passes for almost 100 yards underneath and getting those key first downs. You don't have Keon Coleman getting 1v1 on the outside so he can jump up and get those 50-50 balls. You don't get Dalton Kincaid leaking out on drag routes without Amari Cooper. So what happened today, even though he didn't have Amari Cooper, he still completed 25 passes, 1 pick, which the NFL's got to redefine what the exception is. They got to redefine it. 3 touchdowns to 3 different guys.
Well, you're going to give Keon the assist? Come on now.
No, I think it should be a fumble. It should be a fumble.
He never had possession of the ball, Mario.
I know he didn't, and that's technically what it was. He didn't have possession of the ball at all. But you hit somebody in the hands, and it gets picked off. That shouldn't be on the quarterback.
Listen, everybody, this is a bitter old quarterback talking right now. You don't need to listen to this nonsense. It's fine. It scored an interception. Speaking of Keon Coleman, he is in a brace on his wrist after the game, and that is right up there with Benford, who is inactive with the wrist, and Amari Cooper, also inactive with the wrist. So as of now, those are the guys banged up. All 3 of them had wrist injuries. Cooper and Benford both inactive today. So don't
get me started. Right, Sean.
Ryan.
I don't even know who you are anymore. Paul, don't get me started on the 3 and outs or a turnover. Don't get me started on that.
So
Should be a turnover.
looking
Yeah.
forward, Mark, or Joe. Should I say Joe? Looking forward, Joe. Um,
All day. Let's go.
The the Bills go against a Colts team that has been struggling. Right, they're sitting there starting quarterback and Anthony Richardson after he checked himself out of a game for a play because that's what we do in professional sports. And the Colts right now listed 4-4. They are 3-1 at home, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, they are 3-1 at home. So Taylor's been out the last few weeks. Fantasy owners rejoice. Jonathan Taylor is scheduled to make a return. But this is not a Colts team that I think is going to scare a lot of Bills fans. Like, don't get me wrong, like the record is serviceable for their division. But is this a game that the Bills kind of get caught looking past? I hate to call it's not a trap game. That's not a trap game. It's not a trap game. But is it something that is a possibility where you're walking into possibly seeing Joe Flacco? You know he's going to be prepared, right? Like, you know that's who he's going to be. He's going to be very prepared as a quarterback. But the Colts don't exactly have a receiver core that should strike fear in the hearts of this Bills defense. One thing that I think was most interesting about today was the Bills ran a ton of man coverage. I think they ran man to try and stop the run, right? They wanted some help in the run game, so they ran a ton of man coverage today on defense. We're going to not see that next week. They're going to go back to their exclusively zone looks against the Colts. I just don't expect the Colts to really scare anybody here. But is this a game the Bills could get caught with their pants down?
The infamous trap game. You know,
I didn't say it. You said it. You said it.
Yeah, no, it's something that people will say. You're going to hear it on Steven. No. You mean the elite Joe Flacco? The elite Joe Flacco we're talking about? You know, I think because oh my God, let me go back to this real quick. I wanted to see this. I think because the Buffalo Bills, you know, you had a close game against the Jets. You had a close game against the Dolphins, two teams that do not have records that are anything that you think, you know, I mean, as far as on paper, you know, I mean, oh, you know, the Bills should roll these teams. The Bills should roll the Colts. It's not going to be one of those games. And it's the duty of the coaching staff and everybody this week that's preparing them for Indianapolis that they need to keep them focused on the prize. Like, listen, we have an AFC conference game coming up. We already lost 2 of them. We can't afford to lose another one and possibly go back down to the 4th seed as Bills currently, because Pittsburgh didn't play. Pittsburgh's on a bye this week. So the Buffalo Bills are currently at the number 2 seed right now. And you could challenge for the 1 seed if you win the tiebreaker with Kansas City, and you can get yourself a bye. This is all a marathon. So as far as the game goes, I agree with you 110%. They're going to go back to their zone scheme next week. They're going to try to maybe put a few more guys in the box to deal with Jonathan Taylor. Once they have done that, they're able to open up their own offense. But as far as there's no trap games in the NFL with how the season is. It's not an 82 game season or a 162 or anything else like that, or a hockey season, you know, all that other stuff. Every game means something. And the fact is, would I have some doubts if it was an NFC game? Maybe. You know, if it was an NFC game, yeah, maybe. But I think the coaching staff, and it's their responsibility to get this team ready to play against the Colts, but I don't expect a lot of stuff to be put on tape. Like, that may be a very boring game. The Colt game may be very boring. I'm just saying, you run it 40. Like, I would bet the over on running it 40 times. I think the Bills will run it over 40 times in this game.
So the Bills right now have, and this is, again, like, I don't want to sound like we're belaboring a point here, but the Bills today, now this is, again, not considering the points today. The Bills coming into this week had a plus 87 point differential, which is, I believe, second in the league. It is second in the league. The only
Yep.
team that has a higher point differential are the Lions.
Yep.
Now, with that being said, this is a game where I would look at the under here because the Bills have allowed 173 points against this season. Again, not counting today.
Mm-hmm.
The Colts have allowed 172. So the major
Yeah.
difference is the Colts have only scored 175 points this year. So the offense is clearly dragging that team down because they're not giving up. They're giving up enough points to remain competitive in the games that they've played, right? So they've only allowed one less point than the Bills. The difference is the Bills have scored, 84 more points than them. Like that's the difference in the record. So don't think that this Colts defense isn't good. They're a good defense. It's the offense that's certainly struggling. They can't generate any points.
They lost to Houston twice this year, Paul, by a combined of 5 points.
Yeah.
Combined. That is insane.
Isn't that crazy?
So they're able to put a defense on the field that can stop a very high octane offense. Obviously, in the second matchup against Houston, Nico Collins was not there, and then Stephon Diggs ended up getting hurt. But that all being said, they beat Miami by 6. They beat Tennessee by 3. They lose to Jacksonville by 3. They beat Pittsburgh by 3. Like, this is a team that only is in tight games. So if this is one of those games where you're sitting there and you're going, if it's a bad team, like you said, their offense is not very good, but you let them hang around within one score the entire game. With Flacco, they might surprise you because that's all they've been in is tight games the entire season.
Right.
They haven't been in any blowouts. If you blow them out, if you hang 17 points on them by the end of the first quarter or the first half, and you're up 17 on them, who knows? They might fold. They might. I don't know. But it's a team that has played very tough competition and has been in all their games. So if you think it's going to be a walkthrough, I think you're sadly mistaken.
Yeah. And I think, another game that looking at the schedule, because everybody's going to look at the Chiefs game. JC Zoe was mentioning this in the chat a little while ago. He's 100% right. If you haven't watched a Detroit Lions game this year, go watch a Detroit Lions game. That is some fun football to watch. Yes, the Bills are going to play. Yes, the Bills get that. They get Detroit this year, right? They're playing the Lions in next month?
Yeah.
They're playing the Lions next month.
I'll look at the schedule.
Pull up their schedule. I've got the schedule right here. They play the Lions December 15th. Yeah. So a month from now. Of course, a lot can happen in a month. But if you get a chance to watch a Lions game, go watch a Lions game because they are fun this year. And again, like from a scoring potential standpoint, they're putting up more points than Buffalo, and they're giving up less points than Buffalo. So they're a fun team to watch. Definitely a game to circle on the calendar if you're interested in seeing what those matchups are going to look like. Buffalo's going to have their hands full that day. And, mind you, that's coming off the heels of the Chiefs, 49ers, and Rams. Now, again, the Rams aren't having a great season, but they're going to give you all you can handle.
They will, yeah.
So, yeah, and the back end of this Bills schedule, like these next, excusing the Colts, whether the Bills win or lose that game is inconsequential as far as I'm concerned. You're a playoff team right now.
Yeah.
Right? You're a playoff team.
Yeah.
You're just as long as you can keep the wheels on the bus. You've got the Patriots, Jets, Patriots to end the season, right? So let's just put it on the table. You'll lose every game from this point forward, right? Let's say you lose every game until you get to the Patriots, Jets, Patriots.
And you go 10-7?
You go 10-7, and you still probably stomp the piss out of the rest of your division. Like Miami's got to run the table because Miami now, at best, the Bills have to lose almost every game from here on out. Miami is at best a wild card team. It's almost impossible for them to win the division.
And that's what kills you, Paul.
Buffalo completely implodes. What?
That's what'll kill you. If you have that mindset going into, we can lose these next 5. It doesn't matter.
Oh, stop.
I would say this, Paul. Our biggest concern last week was going into Kansas City healthy. If you're McDermott And before we get to the roast, guys, the roast is coming up in a couple minutes. But if you're McDermott, if there's any guy who's like a 50-50 for you, do you sit them against the Colts? Like, do we see an injury report or inactives that are 3 or 4 starters this week coming up? Can we possibly see that?
I don't know. You know,
Like,
I think
like Cooper, just one more week.
Oh, because you have the Chiefs the following week.
Yeah,
is that what you're
yeah,
saying? Because you have the
yeah.
Chiefs the following week. I think you know this. Football at its core is often a rhythm sport, and when you start skipping games, that impacts players, right? You got to keep playing.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know, I don't necessarily see that. I think it's a great point to bring up that maybe Buffalo does sit some guys that are kind of on the fence. I would love to see Elam play again. He's got a first round. You draft him in the first round. You're gonna have to play him sooner or later.
Yep.
Colts game is a great time for him to get more playing time. You don't want to bring Christian Benford back. Don't.
Exactly.
Don't.
Yeah.
Right. Don't.
Yeah.
But I don't think missing Benford is going to hurt you. Right. So, yeah.
So Paul, G-Rock comes in real quick before we get to the roast. Do you guys anticipate any trades before the deadline? Paul, when is the deadline, by the way? Can you let the
deadline? I think is November 5th, if I'm remembering correctly.
Tuesday.
I will double check that.
Voting day, guys. Vote. Make sure you get out and vote. Nothing
Trade
political
deadline,
here,
NFL.
but just get out and vote. I'm not saying anything else. That's about it.
Let's see here. The official trade deadline is. Yeah, here it is. Sorry. Just couldn't find it for a second. Just waiting for CBS Sports to pull up. Trade deadline is November 5th, 4:00 Eastern Standard Time.
Gotcha.
I think Buffalo's done. You know, I think they're done. As far as making any deals, I think DeMar Hamlin is your starting safety. I think, you know, Dorian Williams is your starting linebacker next to Bernard. I don't think they're going to do anything. I think they're done as far as I'm concerned. I don't see them adding a receiver. What are you chuckling about?
That's a clip. That's out of context. That's hilarious. I'm going to use that forever.
What? Buffalo's done?
Buffalo's done. I think they're done. Buffalo's done. I can't wait to make that a GIF.
Great.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. No, I think you're right too. Any move they make, it's going to be for a guy that about 90% of Bills Mafia will be like, who? And then he'll end up being like a run-stopping 330-pound defensive tackle that no one's ever heard of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
well, and that's another thing. The Bills' defensive line today got manhandled by Miami. You know, like.
Yep.
I haven't been disappointed with the defensive tackle play, and I don't know if it's just because my expectations were so low for the players on the roster that I've been pleasantly surprised. But man, Epineza looks bad. Epineza looks bad. I would love to see them go out and add a defensive end.
Will you stop it? He looks phenomenal. What? He looks fine. Your hate is clouding your judgment. I swear to God. Epineza and Oliver have been playing very well this year.
I didn't say anything about Oliver.
No, but I'm talking to Joe. Joe, are you watching? Joe, here. Stop hating on Oliver.
Epineza sets the edge like Forrest Gump. He just keeps running. That's it.
He is not Jerry Hughes. How dare you put him in that category?
He keeps running.
He is not Jerry Hughes.
So bad at setting the edge, dude.
He's so good at getting to the quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah, they extended him early too. By the way, extended him early too.
Hi, Tyler. Thank you for this. Do you think the Bills grant Mike Edwards his wish and trade him to a poverty franchise like the Raiders?
Oh my God. I'd love to get a 5th rounder back for Mike Edwards if he's not going to play.
Get anything back. Oh my God.
I don't know what's going on with him. Back. I have no idea what's going on with him. That's so weird. All right. Hashtag Nation Bills Mafia. If it's your first time here, make sure you drop a like and a follow. And if you're a repeater, you already know the deal. When the Buffalo Bills win, we roast. So for 3 minutes on the clock, you can roast anything you want. Just make sure you guys know it's family friendly. We can't read off any chaos. So you can roast us, roast the team, roast marshmallows, whatever the hell you always want to do. So have some fun.
Well, that's how you heat your house. That's why you heat your house with your stove, Mario, is so that way you can just roast marshmallows whenever you want, right?
I can. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's a good look for you, by the way.
You know what? Anything that takes attention off my forehead, I think I'm good with at this point.
Man,
Beat
Look like
Miami
a
without
cone head in
Benford
that
and
hat.
Cooper. Yeah, right. We come from
What's the line?
France.
What's the line from A League of Their Own? Did anybody ever tell you look like a penis with a little hat on?
That's it, Jimmy. You're out of here.
So, Mar, in the world of sports movies, right? Top 3 sports movies of all time. What are yours? I don't know if I know this.
You already know what number 1 is.
Miracle.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, all right. I paused the roasting session for a second, but
Okay.
what category are we fulfilling here?
Just
Because
sports.
just sport, because comedy would go in there. I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Re-
Yeah.
re-
Yeah. Sports movie. So like
remote,
The Big Lebowski fits in because it's technically a sports movie, right? So technically,
remote drops for me are Miracle.
Mhm.
Remember the Titans
Okay.
and Replacements.
Yeah, Replacements is so good, man.
Those 3. But then again, like I love Major League. I love Coach Carter.
Yeah.
Like I love those movies. I'll sit there and I'll watch whatever point in the movie they're in. I'll drop the remote and watch it. Doesn't matter.
Yep. Yep. I think it's a generational thing, right? Like my dad would say, like Hoosiers. You know, like Hoosiers ends up in there. But for me, like generationally, I'm not. Great movie in a time capsule, right?
Yeah.
If you like shorts that start at your armpits, you know, Hoosiers is a great movie for you.
The John
If that's a fashion
Stocktons.
choice that you make.
Yeah, the John Stocktons. The program.
Yeah.
See, that's generational too. That came out in
that's what I mean.
94 or something like that.
Yep, great movie. Great movie.
You know what's going to be generational for us, Paul? Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, sure is.
Yep.
I know.
Mario digs Cool Runnings. One for the rhythm. One for the run.
That's a great movie.
It is.
John Candy is outstanding in that movie.
Oh God,
he's outstanding in that movie.
There were, I guess, people like there were so many flaws in that movie, though. From like the general overall thing that did happened in the Olympics, but like the off the field stuff was like, I guess people debated it for years, like what happened.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
The roast has continued.
Yes. Mario rocking the knitted Guardian cap. You know, good kudos to Devon Achan wearing the Guardian cap at the running back position. Good for you, dude. Good for you.
Yeah.
I think players are scared to wear it. Paul types like a boomer. I saw that. It's just a keyboard. It's just a key. It's I don't know. Maybe I type loud. I don't know.
What is
do
this?
I type loud?
Yes, you do. By the way, Mario's probably called in on the squirrel. Well, I'm confused.
No, and Paul had said something about a squirrel earlier. I think I didn't know what he was talking about there. He's probably a few Dos Equis into his night. That Paul Berg. Mario gives off Waterboy vibes.
Coach, not only will I do it for you, yes, I'll do it for you.
I am viewer number 69. Let's
go. Let's go.
I'm not familiar with this movie.
Youngblood. I know the movie. Oh God, what is it? I can't think of the movie. It's not.
In 1986.
I'm thinking of the wrong movie. Oh, I'm thinking of
Ice Hockey Tryouts.
Oh, that was with Patrick Swayze and Rob Lowe. Yep, I remember.
And Keanu Reeves.
Stay on sides. Pass the puck. You want me to slow down for you? Yeah, I remember that one. That was a great movie. I was thinking of Vision Quest. You ever seen Vision Quest? It's a wrestling movie.
I have.
Slapshot's a great one.
Vision Quest. Like, here's the thing. It's such a crappy title for what the movie is. You know what I mean? Like, it's so 1980s. Like, you hear Vision Quest and you expect it to be like a movie based on like an arcade game, like from 1986.
You know what? Two things. Number one, what a very underrated scene in that movie is when he's talking to the guy that he works with, and the guy took the night off to go watch him wrestle, and he was talking about Pele, and it was a great movie. That scene is one of my top favorites. The other thing for Matthias, he's been number one on the list. saying this
Oh, for
multiple
Carr?
times.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Guys, as a teaser, since you guys made it this far into the video, during the bye week, Paul and I will be getting into the car. And all I
Yeah,
have to say is just wait till you see the promo video for that. Just wait till you see it. You're
So
welcome.
we've upgraded equipment. So the problem is we have better equipment now, and we
Yeah.
don't know how to use it. So we need to figure that piece out. Yeah, we got to figure that piece out. Galaxy Quest, not a sports movie. Excellent movie. Excellent movie.
Donnie Monica comes in. Who has a
Was
better,
it better
40
40
time?
time?
I don't know, Paul.
Um,
Who was faster at 40 years old, me or you?
Well, I'm fresher to 40 than you, so I feel like the answer is me. I mean, in
Yeah.
current state, I think it would be a bad idea for any of us to run, either of us to run competitively.
Yeah.
Just because. Like
I-
I've seen a lot of people that's how they like determine their fantasy drafts, right?
Oh my
Is
God.
they do like competitions, and one of them was whoever ran the fastest time in the 40, and I saw 3 grown men cry because they blew out their hammy or they cramped up. You know, I saw multiple men not finish the 40 because something
yeah.
horrific happened to them.
I would 100% tear my Achilles. And fun fact, guys, I don't think Paul has an ACL or MCL. It's just one big leg. Goes. I would challenge.
Evan, let's go, buddy. Let's
That's
go.
what I'm saying. I will let you guys borrow my C8 Corvette when I move back to the East Coast. If you guys are promo bet, let's go.
Deal. Bet. Let's
100%.
go. Yep. Yeah.
We have to do a summertime challenge with #Nation one of these days where we got to give out like jerseys or something or tickets or something to something. If they could hit a Paul Wineski fastball. I literally would love to see that episode. I would film it with all of #Nation.
You and I should put together a video of us doing things like that, like a little competition series between the two of us.
That'd be fun.
That could be quite some fun.
Here's
one. Who would win in their prime? That assumes we both had a prime.
Most of these guys never had a prime.
There we go. See? There we go.
In my prime days, guys, at 23 years old, I was 6'4", 210 pounds, and I ran a 4.69 40. That was my best ever that I was. So if you could beat that, kudos. If you can't, I mean, I'm not that guy anymore, but that's what I was at one point. Tim Hortons Angel Cream Donuts stock. What's it?
Stock to the moon. You know, I get criticized for the fact that like I don't know why I do it in the car, but I eat the donuts with 2 hands because I'm trying not to get crumbs in your car, and I don't know why I'm so conscientious about that.
This coming from a guy who said my car smells like Fritos, first of all. Like, it does, but that's why you shouldn't worry about spilling anything in it. Like, literally.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
I forgot my Cook jersey at work today and he dropped a pass. Coincidence? Yeah. Well, this roast session lasted a little bit longer than I thought. And like half of them were like movies thrown in there. I can't believe I forgot Rocky. That's crazy.
That's not even the good one. Everybody knows Rocky IV is the best.
Why? No.
Good night, everybody.
If you said Rocky V, we'd have a problem. Rocky IV was pretty amazing. All right. #Nation and Bills Mafia. We'd like to thank y'all for coming to the post-game presentation, #Sports post-game presentation of the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins. Bills with a 61-yard field goal win by Tyler Bass, win in the final seconds. The Buffalo Bills are now 3-0 in the division, 7-2 overall, and hold a 4-game lead on the AFC East. They take on the Indianapolis Colts next week, and then they take on the Chiefs before their bye. Thank you to Sean Rogers for sponsoring tonight's episode. Go check out all of our socials, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. For my esteemed colleague, Paul, and my huge forehead, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you this week, guys.
Hello, fellow Bills fans. Sean Rogers, Realtor and lead of the Mr. Rogers Homes team. Did you know that real estate is one of the best ways to build wealth? And right now is one of the best times to own an investment property in Arizona. please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions so we can take the next step to your financial freedom here in the Valley of the Sun, utilizing real estate. As always, God bless America and go